Welcome to Better with Age, a speaker series that Catholic Family Services through Mature Minds is hosting for the month of June. We are so grateful that you came to join us today. This meeting is being recorded. And so if you miss it, if you'd like to come back to it, if there's things that our speakers say that you would like to be reminded of, you'll be able to access that at a later point. So please do use the question and answer features. For some reason, our chat isn't working today and we're not sure why, but we would love to hear your questions and your answers in there. And then please don't record or take pictures of this presentation. As I mentioned, it'll be available to you if you are interested in learning more. So once again, my name is Jenna Wickens and I'm the Mature Minds Coordinator with Catholic Family Services of Simcoe County. Thank you for joining us today for the speaker series. Before we get started, we would just like to acknowledge that the land in which Terrell and I are both presenting from, that the building that we are in is located on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe. The Anishinaabe include the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. CFSSC respects Indigenous history and culture and is dedicated to moving forward in the process of reconciliation with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. So who we are with Catholic Family Services, just to give you a brief idea of what we're about, we are an organization who is providing help and offering hope and changing lives of people in our community. We do this through counseling and community development. And so you are joining us in part of the community development with Mature Minds, where we have education and advocacy. We do programs and program supports. We get together with amazing community partners like Alzheimer's Society to help you with aging, with what it means to grow old and to grow old well. Our speaker today is Terrell Bougie. We're so delighted to have Terrell here with us to speak to you, to speak to us about brain health. Terrell is a public education coordinator and social recreation facilitator with the Alzheimer's Society of Simcoe County. She's been working with the Alzheimer's Society for 5 years, starting off as the Minds in Motion coordinator and moving to the education role in 2021. Terrell has a strong passion for working with people living with dementia and their families to assist them to live their best lives. Advocacy, education, and providing social opportunities to clients is what she loves most about her role. Please join me in welcoming Terrell. Terrell, thank you so much for joining us, for being here with us. And we are excited to hear what you have to share about brain health today.
Thank you so much, Jenna. That was a lovely introduction, much appreciated. And thank you all for joining us today to talk about brain health. As Jenna said, as a public education coordinator with the Alzheimer's Society, it's really my passion talking about brain health. So I'm really pleased to be with you today to share some knowledge and to learn with you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, bring up my presentation, and we get started.
Our memories.
Sorry about that. And of course, we practiced this at the beginning, Jenna and I, a little bit, but there we go. There we are. Great. So yeah, talking about brain health today, so important. And so I'll bring up the agenda. And, you know, as I said, really excited to be with you here today and talking about brain health and really that positive aging message, right? Aging, as we know, happens to all of us, but it does not mean that we all age the same. And so there are many contributing factors that can assist us with positive aging. And this is not new news to us. Some of it might be new, but some of it is just, you know, thinking about and being mindful of what can we do to promote good brain health and that positive aging. You know, we know there's risk factors out there that we can't control, but many risk factors in brain health and positive aging we can control. So that's a good news story. And that's always nice to know that we have control in many of the things that contribute to that positive brain health. So that's what we're going to focus on today, the things that we do have control over and that we can focus on to really have that positive aging element. As Jenna mentioned, if there's any questions as we go along, you know, just pop them in the question and answer box and Jenna will help bring them to my attention. And I'll do my best to answer any questions along the way, or alternatively, if you'd like to save those questions for the end, we've left time at the end to have a discussion or questions regarding anything in the presentation. So really today, we're going to talk about facts on aging, maybe some myths that are out there, or some maybe just facts on, what we're doing well in our aging society. And we know that the numbers, the baby boomers are, our senior population is increasing. And so really talking about the excitement of, aging is a positive thing. Trends are changing. The way that we used to think about aging is a lot more positive now, and that's a good thing. We're going to look at the importance of good brain health and promoting positive aging. I've broken it down into 5 kind of key action areas to look at brain health and what we can do to keep healthy, and maybe give us some ideas and suggestions on where to get started in those aspects. And then we're going to talk about a lot of those risk factors that you and we can control. And so we're kind of in the driver's seat in a lot of the things that we can do to really have that good brain health. Okay. So we're going to start off with some facts on aging, and all of these, a lot of this information in the presentation today, I've referenced information from the Fountain of Health, which is a source of reliable information about positive aging. It's a Canadian source out of Nova Scotia, and it really does talk a lot again about those steps we can take to promote and protect good brain health. So looking at some facts on aging, seniors enjoy a higher quality of life than ever before. Absolutely. Being a senior today means something very different than it did in the past. Many people are better in health in their senior years now more than ever. Thinking of the past, not that long ago, 20, 30 years ago, people were retiring in their mid 50s, mid to late 50s, early 60s. And yes, that's great. But we're finding now a lot of people in their aging years are working into their 70s, mid 70s, because they want that purposeful engagement. It offers them a lot. We realize that 60 is so very young. Maybe for some people, retirement sounds good. For others, we want to keep moving on. Often retirement years ago, people might have thought about, this is my time to, sit in front of the TV and to just really take that rest that we maybe want. Now, retirement means much more nowadays, getting out there, traveling, learning a new language, socializing with friends, volunteering, many things. Even if we're retired, we're not sitting at home now if we're seniors, right? We're out there engaging in our communities. Physically in shape. People are really mindful of wanting to be their best self in terms of health wise and what they can contribute to their overall health by being physically active, right? We're not so isolated maybe in retirement or in our senior years as maybe we were before. Even in, when it comes to a point where people are moving locations in terms of homes or assistance of care, there's often these community homes, retirement homes that we can move into so we're not socially isolated. So really, seniors nowadays more than ever are enjoying a higher quality of life. How long we live is not just in our genes. This is an interesting fact because really what we're saying here is we are in control of 75% of our longevity, right? Only 25% of our longevity is due to our family genes. Much more is shaped on how well we take control of ourselves. So again, it gives us that sense of control that there are things that we can do to promote this good brain health. That's really exciting. Our brains and our bodies improve with use. Yes, absolutely. It used to be a common myth years ago that, as we age, we're pre-wired to kind of break down and not fail, it says fail here, but, break down over time and not be our best selves. When we know research evidence shows, our bodies and brain improve and stay healthy when they're actively used. So just because we're moving on in years does not mean that we're not able to actively use our brain and our bodies. In fact, of course, as we know, the more we use our brain and our bodies, the more benefit, right? The more activity we're giving our brain, the more opportunity for it to cells to connect, synapses to fire, and that engagement's going on. So yes, we have the ability to improve our brains and body with age. positive outlook is a key to long life. You know, there's that saying that, you know, if you're looking, you know, choosing to look at the cup half full rather than half empty. And studies do show that that optimism piece, that quality of optimism, can really give us that hope, can give us that excitement and joy that there's many good things to look forward to. You know, and again, recognizing when we're in control of our outlook, you know, 75%, as we mentioned earlier, we're in control of that outlook. It's really exciting to think that we can look for opportunities for growth in terms of our overall well-being, you know, what we choose to do. And we're going to talk about some of those key elements on things we can do to make sure that we really are living our best life, right? At whatever age and stage that we're at. So, you know, as mentioned, I'm a public education coordinator with the Alzheimer's Society. And so really the human brain is one of the things I talk about a lot. And, you know, when we think about it, our human brain is our most vital organ, right? It's one of your most vital organs. And sometimes because we don't see our brain, I think it's safe to say that we may not be as mindful that it needs to be looked after as well, right? When we physically hurt ourselves, we tend to that injury. We go to the doctor, we get a cast on a broken arm, or we sprain our ankle. We're mindful not to go out walking a lot and to be taking care of it because we can see that it needs, we can feel that pain. When we're talking at our brain, you know, it's just as important to keep our brain healthy, but sometimes it's you know, we don't see it. So sometimes we're not as mindful of what we can do to promote good brain health. We know that healthy lifestyle choices are going to help us along the way. They're going to help us keep our brain healthy, and they're going to reduce age related risks and illnesses. Right? It's not saying that it's going to stop all things from happening. It's not saying that it's going to stop disease or it's going to stop things happening. What it's going to do is reduce our risk. Right? And that's what we want to be mindful of. And so if we're talking about how we can do this, being mindful of making those better lifestyle choices now, we really can improve our brain's ability to sustain long-term health and those long-term benefits. And that's what we want. We want that quality of life right up, you know, in our senior years and beyond, right? We want to having that quality and sustaining that long-term health. So, you know, just again, to really recognize the importance of our brain health, I'm going to show a little video. And it really just, you know, what I would like you to kind of take from this video is recognizing that, you know, what our brain does for us, it does everything, right? It's the basis of all we do. And so that's really, really important to recognize and important to think about when we talk about why do we want to keep our brain healthy? Well, we want to keep it healthy because it's the basis of everything we do. It's part of our memory, our language, our emotional center, purposeful movement, you know, recognizing from across our five senses. And so it's, you know, our brain is vital, of course, right? So I want you to hopefully sit back and relax and enjoy this video to really just take home that message that the importance of this good brain health is because the brain does everything, right? We need our healthy brains. Okay.
How does the brain work? The brain is the most complex organ in our body. It controls everything we do, from simple things, such as breathing, to complex things, such as coordinating our movements. The brain stores our memories, allows us to think and speak, and controls how we behave. Damage to the brain, such as that seen in dementia, can cause difficulties with carrying out all of these functions. The brain is
One
made
moment.
up of
You can pause the
billions
video
of
for a
nerve
second.
cells or neurons, all connected to each other.
Oh,
How does the brain work? The brain is the most complex.
sorry.
Not a problem. If you just mute yourself when the video is playing, then we won't have that feedback coming through.
Thank you, Jenna.
Perfect.
I apologize for that.
Not a problem. I think it's a great video to watch.
How does the
for them.
brain work? The brain is the most complex organ in our body. It controls everything we do, from simple things, such as breathing, to complex things, such as coordinating our movements. The brain stores our memories, allows us to think and speak, and controls how we behave. Damage to the brain, such as that seen in dementia, can cause difficulties with carrying out all of these functions. The brain is made up of billions of nerve cells or neurons, all connected to each other. These neurons are fed by a network of blood vessels that provide the neurons with the oxygen and nutrients that they need to function. The brain can be divided into 4 main sections: the cerebral cortex, which is split into 2 cerebral hemispheres, the limbic system, the cerebellum, and the brain stem. The bulk of the brain is the cerebral cortex. Each cerebral hemisphere can be separated into 4 lobes, which have different functions. The frontal lobes are important for decision-making, problem-solving, and planning. They also control our behaviour. The parietal lobes receive and process sensory information from the body, including information about space, size, and movement. The temporal lobes are important for memory, hearing, and language. The occipital lobes deal with visual information from the eyes. The lobes are connected to each other in complex networks, and many tasks require lobes to work together at once. For example, using a fork to eat requires processing of visual information in the occipital lobes, planning by the frontal lobes, and coordination by the parietal lobes to pick up the food and raise it to the mouth. Deep within the brain is the limbic system. This is a collection of structures with a key role in several brain functions, including memory and emotion. 2 important parts of the limbic system are the hippocampus, which is important for memory, and the amygdala, which is important for emotion. The cerebellum, at the back of the brain, controls movement, posture, and balance. The brain stem, at the bottom of the brain, controls basic life functions like heartbeat, breathing, and blood pressure.
Okay, so, a lot of information in that video, but really, wanting to get that message across that yes, the brain is everything we do, right down, as we said, to our breathing and our heartbeat. And so important to think about and be mindful of, what can we do? And many of these things I'm sure we're already doing, which is amazing. And part of coming out to these talks, I think, is just promoting and sharing some of our ideas. Because if you're doing a lot of these things that we're going to talk about today, maybe you have another spin, maybe you have another idea that you're doing that we've not mentioned here, and we could put those in the question and answer and kind of recap and share some of the ideas. So as we go through these 5 key action steps that promote good, positive brain health, think about, yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm doing that really good. Or maybe I've thought about doing some of these, but I haven't got to the point where I'm quite going there yet. Maybe this will encourage you to take that extra step, or maybe that will encourage you to share and encourage others in your life to do the same, right? Because as we said earlier, good brain health, is important at every age and stage of our life. And it's really exciting to think that we are in 75% of control of what we can do to contribute to good brain health. Right? As we learned earlier, only 25% is due to our genes. And so 75% we are in control, which is exciting. So we're going to look at some of these 5 key actions points. We're going to talk about cognitive engagement, that good exercise for our brains. What can we do to build our brain power, our cognitive reserve? Of course, physical activity, how are we exercising our bodies, and what are the benefits of that? And we're going to share ideas on ways that perhaps you are already doing, as we've said, or perhaps things that we can share and try something new. Staying socially active. I think it's fair to say that during COVID, we all recognized the importance of staying socially active. a lot of people through the pandemic have seen a decline in their health status, and a lot of that is due to lack of socialization, that being isolated and withdrawing because we had to from our support systems or our community support systems, even friends and family. It was sometimes difficult to get together. So the importance in recognizing that, yes, socialization is huge in our lives. Humans by nature are social people, and so talking about how do we stay socially active, taking control of our health, looking at certain health aspects that we can be mindful of, and really make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success for good brain health. And then really having that, open, honest talk with ourselves and changing how we think about aging. There's a lot of ageism in our society. We're making great strides to overcome that through webinars like this. And I understand Jenna has done some ageism webinars recently as well. And so talking about these things really can change how we think about aging, because we know, as some of those facts I said at the beginning, we know that being a senior is pretty darn cool right now. There are so many opportunities out there for us to be engaged in all of these areas. And sometimes it's just learning about them and finding out what is available to us. So, making healthy choices a habit and making it a lifestyle choice can be really exciting. So we're going to take a little bit of a closer look into all of these 5 key actions. And I think it's exciting to think. So when we think about cognitive engagement, really, like I said, it's doing activities that exercise our brains, right? Because just like our body, our brains need to be healthy. They need to be keeping on working. We want that, all those synapses firing. Our brain is like plasticine almost. It can continue to grow and develop right through, before we're even born up until old age, well into old age. So every time we engage in new cognitive engagement, our brain is having to think. It's having to create new pathways that connect those cells, and those synapses are firing and good things are happening. And so when we challenge our brain with new activity, we're really building that cognitive reserve. And that cognitive reserve is really that, I went by for a minute. That cognitive reserve is really, the ability to build our brain's resilience. It helps us, if we have good cognitive reserve, to deal with stress in life, to deal with challenges. It's promoting that good brain health. Even brushing our teeth with our less dominant hand is a really good, simple brain activity, right? It makes our brain think about what it needs to do to brush your teeth, rather than just using that procedural memory that a lot of us rely on. And so challenging yourself to write your name with your less dominant hand, brush your teeth. You might not want to try eating soup. I don't know, that's up to you, but an activity that is out of the ordinary, that's causing our brain to work a little more and think about what we're doing, can be really good brain health. So challenging our brain, pulling out the board games. I know during COVID, our family, we did a lot of jigsaw puzzles, a lot of board games, and it was so much fun. And it really brought us back to some of the basics, again, that was great for socialization within our home, but also really fun cognitive engagement. When we can make it like a game, it's a lot more interesting, right? Education, lifelong learning opportunities. Did you know that many universities and colleges throughout Ontario offer free education courses for seniors? So I remember being in university way back in the 90s, and I had a woman in my English class who was in her 90s, and she said, why wouldn't I? I get to take it for free, and I'm finally having the opportunity to learn about Shakespeare. And I'll never forget that, because I thought I learned so much from her, much more than English, right? Because she was such a wealth of information. So taking those opportunities. And again, every time we increase our exercise our brain, we're increasing that cognitive reserve, that cognitive resilience. So how can we do this? And again, I know many of you are doing a lot of these things already, but challenge your brain to learn something new. Take maybe a new language class. Maybe you're wanting to travel and you want to learn the language of the place that you're going to travel. those university courses if you have an opportunity to do so, especially now. You know, I would much rather learn in person. Again, we're ticking off that cognitive engagement, but we're also doing socialization. But if mobility is an issue, if transportation is an issue, take a course online. There's so many wonderful travel shows. There's so many opportunities to learn, right? And sometimes maybe you're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know that I can take a whole class. Then don't. Maybe pick up a newspaper and do a little more reading. Start small. That's okay, right? Pick up a magazine. Pick up, anything that you like to read or learn about. My husband's not a reader, but he loves reading, woodworking magazines or how to take things apart and put them back together. Never read a story in his life, but that's okay. That suits his needs, right? So whatever works, let's do it. Taking out a free membership at your local public library. We know that libraries are a wealth of information, not only for books, but you can go there and do scrapbooking. They have cricket machines. They have equipment that you can loan out to do certain hobbies. There's so many opportunities that are free of charge. And again, many of the libraries, if you give them a call, might be able to even deliver that stuff to you if that's something that you may need to, or maybe a help, right? It might take away one of those barriers. Discovering the computer, which again, sometimes that can be daunting if you've never went down that road to use a computer, or maybe you want to increase your skills. Again, there's a lot of great there's Cyber Seniors in Barrie who offer computer courses for seniors free of charge. There's other opportunities that college students in computer courses are working with some seniors to offer technological support. So that's a really good opportunity. Changing our routine, maybe if you ride your bike around the neighborhood, take a different route. Again, it's challenging our brain, learning those new opportunities. And procedural memory works really good, but it's really good to kind of put a little fork in the road and take a little bit of a different route. Register for a course, challenge our mind. Whatever, don't let age or lack of experience be a barrier. Get out there and just learn some new opportunities, or maybe continue what you're already doing in terms of some of these ideas that we've talked about. So that cognitive engagement is huge. And to kind of throw a little fun in here, let's do a little brain game right now. I'm going to ask you to look at the slide, and I want you to say the color, not the word. And I realize we're on mute, a lot of us, right? So I want you to do this privately at home, but challenge your brain. Say the color, not the word.
Terrell, I have to say, I looked at this before and it made my brain hurt a little bit. Yeah, when I tried to look at it automatically. Okay, I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna play the game and people can watch me play it. Here we go. Green, blue, red, yellow, black, blue, red, green, black, red, blue. Wow, that actually, like, I can feel my brain being like, what are you doing?
Absolutely. You're making it work a little bit, but that's okay. It's saying thank you because I'm getting this good energy. And it's interesting, Jen. I appreciate you playing the game. Thank you, because that's always really fun. It's interesting, Jenna. I bet if you played this, printed this paper off and did this every day, I bet you after even a short time, your brain wouldn't be so, what are you doing to me? It would be up for the challenge, right? Because the more we engage, the more practice we get, and the more our brain's able to do these tasks. So you did amazing. That's awesome.
Well, thanks so much. Even when you talked about brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand, I was thinking in my head, even thinking about trying to do that. I think that I would not have very clean teeth at the end, but my brain would get the exercise. So that's great. Anyway, I'll let you continue on. I just wanted to jump in and play the game and show that it's actually pretty tough. If you haven't done this, as Terrell suggested, at home, just to yourself, try and give it a shot. Your brain kind of does like a for a second.
Right. Our brain is having to think a different way. And that's good news, right? That's an exercise for our brain. So thank you, Jenna. I appreciate you playing that. All right. So next we're going to move on to physical activity. And, this is nothing new for all of us. We all know that regular exercise is good for us for so many different reasons, right? It really helps us build that resiliency and ability to cope with stress and challenges. And we also know research shows that it's one of our best ways to enhance our mood, right? It's one of the best to kind of, when we exercise, we get that feel good chemical, that serotonin, and it's released in our bodies, and it really does enhance our positive mood. So the more we exercise, the more those feel good chemicals are being emitted through our body and our mind, right? And so it's really important to incorporate exercise into our life because we know it's good for us. But it's also really important to recognize we want to put exercise in our life that we actually enjoy. It shouldn't be a chore, right? If it's something that we're like, oh my goodness, I have to get up in the morning and go to yoga. Yeah, it's good if you still go, but the chances of you going consistently and making it a lifestyle choice may not be as high as, holy man, I have baseball on Saturday and I can't wait to get there, right? Because yoga for me, it's not my jam, but put me in on a team with other people that I get to socialize and have fun with and use my sports skills. It's like, yes, I want to be there more than once a week, right? And that's what we were looking for. Activities that we really love, that we can, although if it's an activity you've never tried, that's not going to stop you from trying it, right? Maybe there's a dance class you want to take and it's just a matter of signing up and just doing it, right? Because that's really, really important. And we know also, not only is physical activity good for our brain health, but we also know that individuals who participate in physical activity regularly exhibit higher levels of confidence as compared to those people who do not. And sometimes that confidence is that extra piece that we need to engage in all these activities we're talking about today, to being confident enough to say, yeah, maybe I've not done this, but I'm going to go give it my best shot, right? So sometimes it's just being able to find some things that suit you and what's fun for you. So, we can do this by not having to commit to 2-hour stints at a time. Maybe you do 10 minutes of exercise in the morning, a quick walk around the neighborhood in the afternoon and something else in the evening. It doesn't have to be one chunk through the day. We can break it down into smaller steps. And it's really important to recognize, before I was a public education coordinator, I was the Minds in Motion coordinator, which is a social and physical program. And I had many people that were wanting to join, but a little bit hesitant because of some of their physical health conditions, osteoporosis. Maybe they were thinking, I don't know if I go to your exercise class, is my pain going to get worse? And that's valid. And I said to them, you're right. Like, I wouldn't want to put you in a situation where you're feeling worse. But what we did is we said, let's start low and slow. Let's do the exercises that you can do safely and that your body feels comfortable with. And over time, we might increase that, we might not, but maybe we'll maintain. And what happened is that's exactly what happened, right? We increased some of their abilities. We know that even with people with osteoporosis, it's more important perhaps maybe to keep us moving, to keep us doing those exercises, to keep up our mobility and our independence. Maybe if you've already had a heart attack, you're thinking, well, I've already had a heart attack, what's the point? But maybe that exercise is going to prevent you from having a second one, right? So it's never too late to be proactive. That muscle and bone health and some of those strengthening exercises can really, really go a long way. And we think about, one of the largest indicators of someone moving into long-term care is having a fall and having a really bad, maybe hip fracture where they can't bounce back from. And so if we can be proactive in our physical abilities and keeping in mind, those strengthening activities, which are going to improve our balance, which will prevent falls. And if falls is one of the number one reasons why people land in hospitals, seniors especially, in long-term care, we want to prevent those falls, right? We want to be doing as much as we can. So really the benefits of physical activity, and again, this is nothing new to us, but it can really lower the risk of those chronic diseases, and it can really improve our concentration, sleeping better, which, we're going to talk a little bit more about sleep in just a little bit, but really increase that overall mood. We talk about that, Sarah, we talk about those feel-good chemicals being released into our bloodstream, and that can improve our mood, which, increase our longevity, and not only increase longevity, but it's that quality of life, right? Sometimes it's not all about quantity of years, but it's quality of years. And that's what we want to promote with good brain health, and that physical activity is a big part of that. So what can we do? We can do so many things, and I'm sure we're already doing many of these things, but we can just move. And if you're moving already, maybe move a little bit more, maybe park the car. And we've said, we've heard this a million times, but parking the car a little bit further from our destination. Sitting for long periods of time can have some really, detrimental health benefits. Or pardon me, health risks, pardon me, from sitting too long. We want to get up and moving. If you're in a position where you're, sitting for long periods of times, don't forget to get up and take those stretch breaks. A 5 or 10 minute stretch break throughout the day can make a huge difference. Do more of what you normally do. Like I say, do something you love to do. It's going to increase the time that we're active if it's something we're looking forward to. Maybe leaving the car at home, walking, again, maintaining that independence. Choosing, we've already touched on this, but again, choosing something that you really enjoy, or something maybe you haven't tried yet, but you really think, man, that sounds exciting and I'd really love to be a part of that, right? I have a client at the Alzheimer's Society who she joined a dance group, and she said, this is so out of my comfort level, but I'm doing it because I'm challenging my brain, my body, and just challenging myself, right? She has gained so many, positive outcomes of this in terms of socialization and friends, in terms of her coordination. She said, my coordination is amazing, something I never thought that my body could do, but she's doing it and she's doing it well. So, giving yourself that opportunity to thrive at something new. Joining a community center. What's out there in your community center that you can join to take a part of? Joining something like this that Jenna puts on through Catholic Family Services, giving yourself an opportunity. I know this isn't physical, this is more maybe cognitive today, but again, introducing that physical, or reintroducing the importance of physical health. And then always being mindful to talk to your doctor for advice on ways that you can keep physical. And if you've been in a situation where you've been out of physical activity for a while, just having that open and honest conversation, again, to make sure that the physical activity you want to do is right for you at where you're at your point in life right now. So just taking care of you, right, and making sure that we're doing things that are right for our bodies and what we want for enjoyment. Staying socially active is number 3 on our list in ways to promote positive aging and good brain health. And I feel like we're making good strides, but we live in a culture where it's kind of promoting individualism. Like, so many people are attached to their devices, or it's great that we can join from our homes today, and I love that aspect, but there's also an aspect of, before Zoom, we would have met in person, and that would play a part in socially active. But I also know Zoom holds a place, and I'm so grateful for it because it has many benefits as well. But, just taking a moment and saying, I think I've heard from a lot of my clients, I know that, again, through COVID, they're almost, some people, and myself included, we've been at home for so long that we've made that a routine, and we've become comfortable with that routine. And it may take a little more effort to get out and join some social events, because it's out of our comfort level perhaps, or we're still uncertain as to where things are going. But we know, there's a study by the Lancet Commission, which does a lot of work on dementia prevention. And in 2020, they put out a report, and social contact, now an accepted protective factor, enhances cognitive reserve or encourages beneficial behaviors. It's an actual fact. Doctors in some countries are writing social prescriptions. Rather than writing a prescription for medication, they're saying, get out there and get for a walk 4 times a week. That's actual prescription. I'm not saying that's happening in Canada because I don't know that, but I know in some countries actually prescribing fresh air, prescribing being with people, prescribing things like this. I think that's huge, right? That's huge to say that socialization plays a part, and we know that, spending time with family and friends hopefully makes us feel good. I hope you're spending time with the people that make you feel good. But did you also know that being socially active improves our brain health, right? It lowers our risk of dementia. It improves our brain performance, lowers our risk of depression, and increases longevity. Just by getting social and talking to others. That's huge. And I think, again, like we said, through COVID, I think that really highlighted the importance of being with others, being with people, and having people to touch and hug. I know I'm I'm a physical, I love offering a hug. And it was really, really hard to not have that social connection through COVID. It was really challenging. And a lot of people were, talk to me about that in terms of the people that I work with at the Alzheimer's Society. And that's real, right? We all have the need for touch, that our senses. So how can we do some of these things? And again, if you have anything that you don't see on the list here that you want us to know about, please use that question and answer box so we can share them. And if there's stuff on here that you're saying, yeah, I do that, then that's awesome. And I challenge you to continue to and share all these ideas with friends and family as well. Calling a friend to go for a coffee or out for a walk. Again, changing things up in your routine. Maybe you're not the person to organize the picnic at the park, but maybe you're going to say, I'm going to take it on. I'm going to be the one that's going to bring the friends together because I need that as well. And maybe my friends need a little prodding to get going too. I don't know. I'm kind of like that. I want to get people getting together and doing things. Maybe you've met someone through a course like today, and you know them, but maybe just, asking a few questions. We did our Alzheimer's Society walk this weekend, and we did at our education booth a very simple kind of cognitive game. And one of it was, would you rather? And so I don't know if you know this game, many people do, but it's really, would you rather vacation in Australia or Alaska? And some of the questions are kind of silly, but it really gets good conversation going. And sometimes when you're meeting new people, it's those opportunities that are kind of silly and fun that really can bond us together kind of and get those conversations started. Challenge yourself to say yes to something you usually turn down. And sometimes that can be a tough one, especially if we're creatures of habit, as many of us are, right? But challenging yourself to say yes. I used dancing earlier as an example. And I remember several years ago before COVID, two of the volunteers that I was working with through my work, they wanted to take a salsa class. It was a one Friday night salsa class. And I love to dance, but I don't love to dance in public. And so I was not really keen on doing this. And they're like, come on, have some fun, treat yourself to a girls' night out. So I said yes to something that was a little, I was looking forward to it, but it was out of my comfort level. I had so much fun. I still am not going to say that I'm going to dance in public to those types of dances, but I had an amazing time and we bonded and it was awesome. It was so much fun. And as soon as I'm able to do it, I'm going to do it another one once the dance classes are up and at. Joining that community center, finding like-minded people. If you're interested in a topic or a group and other people are going there for that same reason, chances are you have a good basis to start those social connected pieces, right? Try volunteering. So many opportunities in our community to give back, which can increase our self-esteem, but also give an opportunity to meet more people, right? And to kind of pass that along to others. This is an interesting one, showing up at an event alone. I've done this a few times, again, out of my comfort zone, but it's been beneficial. Not always. A few times I went, oh, I really wish I would have had a friend here with me. But a lot of times going alone, it can not force you, but you're not just sitting there talking with your friend, and our friends are great and we want them, but it allows opportunities to meet new friends and new people, right? And so showing up at an event alone, try confiding in someone, and maybe reaching out to a senior, really making connections with people through common bonds and interests. It could be based on your hobbies. It could be based on just, I wanted to learn something new about someone. And that's really fun, but it's also challenging our brain. It's giving our brain that good cognitive reserve, which we want. Taking control of our health. Again, a lot of us through our life, we're really good at taking care of others. And sometimes we're not so good at taking care of ourselves. Sometimes we are, and we should be, but it's really easy, I think, to put others before ourselves sometimes. But we really need to think about, if you're not your optimal self in terms of health, what can you offer others? Right? And if you can, that's great, but we want to maintain it, right? Because we know if we don't maintain our good health, there comes a point where we might reach a burnout. And so we want to be mindful of that. So what are some things we can do for our overall good health? That healthy eating, which again, these are things that are in our control, right? That the importance of good sleep and what it does for our brain and our body. How can we manage stress and the importance of managing stress? And then talking about that mental health piece, because there's been a lot of changes in our society lately. Well, life is always full of changes, isn't it? But I think especially over the last few years, we've recognized that we really need to be mindful to take care of our own selves. I often say in my education classes to our care partners, and Jenna knows this because we do a virtual care for the carers together, but we say to our care partners, if we're not at our best self, how can we be our best self for others? And then sometimes we come to the point where we have two crises on our hands, and we don't want to get to that point. So by engaging in some of these areas we're going to talk about for control of our own health, again, they all add up to good things we can do. And it's not something that's unattainable. These are things that are achievable when we're mindful of them and put these into our lifestyle, right? So healthy eating, and again, nothing new. We've all heard the Canada's Food Guide, right, from when we were, young age. The Canada Food Guide has taken a new kind of focus, and they're focusing more on a plant-based diet now. So rather than the 4 food groups that was in the previous guide, this one, the other one was more, this one is more focused on proportions. So they're suggesting half of our plate should be fruits and vegetables. And we want that colorful plate. The more colorful our plate, the more foods we're getting that's variety. And those antioxidants, all those good nutrients, vitamins, all those wonderful things, those colorful foods. So we don't just want a bland white plate. We want all that colorful, like here, the blueberries, the raspberries, the kiwis, the tomatoes, the eggplant, all those good things want to cover half our plate, right? Then we want to have our protein foods a quarter, and then the whole grains a quarter of a plate. And I really, really, I think as long as we're mindful of, we all know the healthy eating practices, but one thing I really want to focus on talking about today is that importance of staying hydrated. Sometimes we aren't always mindful of staying hydrated with water. We might be drinking other things, which is okay in moderation, but that water, as we age, our thirst receptors decline. And so as we age, we are less cognizant, or we less are to recognize our thirst need. Okay, I'm not saying that we never get thirsty. I'm just saying it declines as we age. And this is especially important if you are a senior with some cognitive impairment, or caring for senior with cognitive impairment. Someone with a cognitive impairment may not recognize that they're thirsty, but we know they need water. So just offering those fluids on a consistent basis, so important. Dehydration can cause so many ill effects and really play a number on our overall health. So just being really mindful, healthy eating is so important, but that importance of water, I can't say enough about it, right? Because we can experience a delirium, which can present similar to dementia, because when we don't drink enough, we can have a urinary tract infection, which can go to a kidney infection, which can lead to other major health complications. So again, part of that healthy eating is making sure we're hydrating our bodies so well. Sleep. Oh, we all know that we need sleep. Some of us are better sleepers than others, and that's often a lifelong thing, I think. But there are things that we can do to get good sleep. But it's when we're in a good sleep that our brain's kind of janitor cells get to work, and that's when the restoration work happens. So as we sleep, our body works really hard to recharge and repair itself. So after a long day, and taking care of, the stress that it's endured, like maybe, just stress from, the stress in our lives, or UV rays and other harmful exposures, by producing more protein. So when we sleep, we produce more protein. and that helps our body repair itself and rejuvenate itself. And these proteins then help form those building blocks for our cells in our brain, right? So that's going to help us repair any damage, repair some damage. So giving them enough time to work, giving our cells in our brain enough time to repair themselves, really, really important, right? And then those benefits, when we give our brains enough time to sleep and repair and do that rejuvenation work, it's going to help with our memory. It's going to help us be clearer thinkers. It's going to have fewer accidents. I think, we've all heard when the time changes by just an hour, that the incidence of accidents actually increases. So the importance of sleep is just right there in that evidence-based research, isn't it? That even a time change of 1 hour can really throw our whole system kind of off. It really helps our immune system. Again, it's when we sleep that our body is doing that maintenance work. And so we want our immune systems to be strong and able to work to the best of their ability. And again, that improved mood. I think, we don't need to say that when we get a good night's sleep, we may be feeling a lot more improved in our mood, as opposed to a night where we do not get a good night's sleep at all, right? We all know this, but again, just being mindful of it. And sometimes, sleeping is hard for people. But thinking about what can help that good sleep, maybe it's that cool, dark bedroom. Maybe you want to have the warm bath before bedtime. Maybe it's, having that routine and letting your body know and your brain know, okay, every night by 10:30, I'm going to turn off, my electronics and get ready for bed. And I'm going to consistently try and wake up at the same time, and building that routine into our body can really help. Trying to avoid those stimulants before bed. If you're a coffee drinker, maybe shutting it off at a certain time, several hours before bed, or if you're exercising, that's awesome, but maybe choosing to exercise, not right before you want to go to sleep, when your adrenaline is right up and you're feeling really pumped up, right? Getting enough sunlight, that vitamin D is so important as well to help us get a well and help us sleep better. So all of those things can really help us. Maybe it's getting those blackout curtains in your room because you don't want that light coming in, or whatever that takes. Some people need that white noise to get a good night's sleep, but the importance of sleep is huge for sure. Managing stress, and again, I think it's that feeling of being out of control. When we don't feel in control of things, we don't know where to go sometimes. And so our ability to recognize our own stress is huge, right? Because when we're really stressed out, that cortisol and that adrenaline is going into our bloodstream, and that can really play a number on us, right? When we have too much of that in us, we have that, maybe our concentration's not as it should be, our judgment's a little off. Maybe we're thinking of, the cup half empty as opposed to half full. Those negative thoughts kind of creep in. Maybe it's, being emotional more than you normally would, right? So just recognizing that stress is a huge piece in kind of being proactive and being able to act on what you can do to manage it a bit better. So maybe it's, talking to someone, maybe it's socializing, maybe it's laughing. I didn't know this, but I found this here when I was putting this together. Our bodies cannot be stressed and laugh at the same time. Did you know that? And so I challenge you to laugh a lot. Deep breathing, mindfulness, and relaxation. Can't say enough about it. Just taking those opportunities. Again, I think it's being mindful of, right? And what we can do to overcome some of these barriers if we do indeed have them. Mental health, it's key to anyone, especially key as we age, because as we age, a lot of things might be changing. Maybe it's a period where there's a lot of changes maybe going on, maybe not, but as we age, we know through there's more illness associated with age, often, not always. Maybe it means relocation to move closer to family if you need some support. Maybe it means relocation into retirement home, so you're having to downsize from your in your life. Maybe it means retirement, and for people who really love their job and thrive on that purpose, thrive on that work life, that can be hard. Retirement can be a big change that's not always seen as positive. So, our mental health in our senior years is obviously just as important, and I might even say more important as we age, because we're dealing with a lot of changes, right? They're not all bad changes, but there's still a change. And along with that can come a process of adapting to that change. And so we also know that, good mental health helps us enjoy our lives and copes with life challenges. Research also shows that mental health and life satisfaction can improve as we age. Again, we're kind of comfortable in our own skin maybe as we age, right? We've had experiences to support our values and what we want to get out of life. When I think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that self-actualization is at the very, very top, it's often then, in our later years in life where people reach it, if they ever do, is because they have their experience to back them up. They have time to maybe invest in themselves and find out what they really want out of life, not what life kind of throws at them in terms of, commitments of, family and work. And you have an opportunity to explore what's out there maybe in later years. So taking care of that mental health, and just really recognizing too that sadness and depression are not a normal part of aging. And so if we're having those, regular, constant sadness and feeling of overwhelmness, maybe that's a time to talk to someone, talk to your doctor, talk to someone, because, we want to challenge that negative thinking. We want to recognize our signs and symptoms so we can be proactive before we hit a crisis spot. And then that piece of asking for help, it can be challenging, but can also be very rewarding and sometimes needed, right? Just being mindful of those four. And again, I'm just going to go back on my slide here, that healthy eating, the sleep, the managing stress, and the mental health, being mindful, because that all contributes for overall good health. Okay. And sorry about that. Changing how we think about aging. I love this picture and I love this woman. I don't know this woman, but to me, she, body language says so much, right? And to me, she's like, I got this. That's what she says to me, right? And so we know that our outlook on life really impacts the aging process and how we feel and how others see it as we age as well. Right. So this kind of, that positive outlook, and thinking about, when we have a positive outlook, we're able to kind of compartmentalize a lot of things. We often, are looking to get out, to be engaged in our environment, which helps us to manage stress. It helps us to actually recover better from illness and disability. Right, those social, and it helps our overall longevity. Studies prove this, so I think many people do this, and that's awesome. And I think some people, need a thumbs up from others, like this lady in this photo that says, keep on going and keep on going. You're doing awesome. And it's that positive look. What does aging look like? As I said, for many people, it's a challenge, but for many people, it's an opportunity to say, I have time now to live the life I want to live, and I'm going to do it. Right. So make a list of things we're grateful for, because sometimes we have those days where we're not quite sure what we're grateful for, maybe. So maybe we need to look at our list and remind us. We have in our house a wreath I pull out every Thanksgiving. And my daughter made it at church, and it was a gratefulness wreath, and it had just a wire wreath with brown paper, and there's clothesline clips, like clothespins, on it. And so we only bring it out at Thanksgiving, and each year we write a different thing we're grateful on. And so now we're like 8 years in, and it's so cool to see some of the constants we're grateful for, but it's also neat to see some of the really cool things that are brand new that we're thankful for. And it's one of our highlights of Thanksgiving, is because it really is making a mindful practice of saying, what are we? I mean, we also say what we're grateful for outside of Thanksgiving, don't get me wrong, but it's a really mindful tradition now that we've made. And it really is a fun activity that we all look forward to now. So recognizing, what are you grateful for? And then celebrate those things, share with others. List some of the benefits you can see in your life as you age, that experience, that knowledge sharing, the opportunity to volunteer and help others in our community, perhaps. What can we do to really expose the good life we're living, right? And sharing with others. Spending more time with people who are positive and encouraging, and less time with people who are not. Because sometimes others can bring us down. It's not saying we want to desert the ones that when they're feeling negative. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying, we want to surround ourselves with people that build us up rather than break us down. And if there are people that maybe, for whatever reason are not making us feel good, it's okay to say, maybe I'm gonna put things in place to maybe help them feel good. Or maybe you're gonna say, I'm gonna take a little break. And sometimes that's needed. It's okay to say no sometimes. And often we're not so good at doing that, but the benefits of doing that can go a long way, right? Challenging unhelpful thoughts. Sometimes we have a lot of perceptions and a lot of thoughts, and it might be just, maybe they're not truthful thoughts. Maybe we've heard other people say it and maybe they're true, but are we finding out if they're true? Are we challenging them? So easy, it's easy to go to the internet to find a question, or it's easy to turn on social media and see that all your friends are traveling. Every month someone's going somewhere else, but here's Terrell sitting at home. Well, you know what, is all those stuff on social media true? I know my friends are traveling, they're not making it up, but I'm just saying, we often think the grass is greener sometimes, when really often it is, but often it's, challenge the facts that we hear. I'm just going to leave it at that because it's true, and then if we're aware of our thoughts, we can change them for the better. It's when we're aware of what's happening to us that we can make change, right? We can't really make change or ask for help if we need it, if we don't recognize that something's amiss. And so just having that cognizant and recognition that something's maybe, I'm feeling out of sorts. Maybe I need to connect with someone. And that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. So those are the five points that we kind of talked about. We talked about that physical activity, that cognitive engagement, the importance of socialization, the importance of taking care of our overall health with healthy eating and sleep, and now that positive outlook can go a long way. I'm just going to take a moment to look at risk factors, because as I said earlier, 75% of what we do, we're in control of in terms of our brain health. Right? Only 25% of our genes dictate our health. And so if we know this, taking steps to improve our health by reducing these risk factors are really a big part of healthy aging. Okay. It's because when our body experiences many, many risk factors at once, our body's overwhelmed, our brain's overwhelmed, and its ability to maintain and repair itself is maybe not happening to the best of its ability, right? So maybe there's some things that are beyond our control. If we have an illness, we have a medical condition, certainly those are things that we work with our doctor to find out the best way we can approach those. But there's other things that we can do, such as, getting that exercise, maybe not, excessive alcohol consumption can be something that we can choose to work on. Head injuries, if getting out there, wearing those helmets and protecting our head, those are things we're in control of. If we're using a mobility aid for walking, I love it. I love it. Sometimes, I remember, my uncle, he didn't want to be using his walker because he was, it'll slow me down, until he had a fall and had a concussion. And now, he's so grateful for that walker that's helping him keep his brain healthy, right? Again, that social isolation, we can work on that. We've talked about things that we can do. Working on our cholesterol, working on our healthy eating habits to try and help some of these high blood pressure issues, getting regular doctor's appointments, that's within our control, right? So all of these things important to think about in terms of what can we do. And it's really, I love being in the pilot seat of my health, right? And so it's nice to know that we are in control of a lot of things and ways that we can be good to our brain health. And again, it's that cognitive engagement, physical activity, staying socially active, taking control of our health, and changing how we think about aging. So I'll pose this to you And again, you can write things in the question and answer if you wish, or maybe you're going to write this down at home or just tuck it in the back of your mind for now. But, knowing what we've talked about today and really recognizing what our brain does. And again, that's everything, isn't it? Right down from, being able to walk, talk, breathe, and have a heartbeat. That's all with our brain. So the importance of our brain health, what are we going to do to keep it healthy? And I'm sure you have, and I hope you did, that as we went through some of these things, you said, yeah, give yourself a pat on the back because you are doing these things. And that's awesome, right? Maybe there's some things we want to add. Maybe there's some things we want to share with others to say, you're important to me. I want your brain to be healthy too. So please do these things with me. And I'm hopeful that just, attending sessions like this that Jen is putting on is really doing just that, by making people mindful of having that proactive line of thinking, I guess, that as we age, there's a whole wonderful opportunity for that positive aging and good brain health. And so I'll challenge you with this one last slide, or the almost last slide, take the plunge and set some goals. I know for me, I am more likely to start something new and maintain it if I write it down. That's me. I'm a list maker and a list checker offer. I love having something tangible that I can look to and say, yeah, I did go for my walk today and it felt really good. And then if I look at it and I haven't went for a walk, I don't have 3 ticks in a row, it prompts me to say, I need to get out walking again, or whatever that might look like for you. So maybe that's something that can help you to stay on track, maybe not, but it's personal. But just being mindful of it, and setting goals can also, if we share those goals with others, can help us be accountable sometimes. Right? It's that accountability piece where sometimes if we do something with a buddy, we're less likely to skip it because someone else is accountable for us as well. All right. So, I'll take the words of Walt Disney to say my final remarks, but really, the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. So, get out there and whatever you need to do or want to do and enjoy to do to have good brain health. That's really exciting stuff. So thank you so much. I put some contact information there, but anyone's always welcome to reach out to the Alzheimer's Society of Simcoe County for any information on any, I know today's talk wasn't dementia specific, but we any Alzheimer's disease or related dementias, we have a wonderful opportunity of offerings. So I'd like to say thank you so much to Jenna as well for inviting me today.
Carol, thank you so much for joining us. I love the practical opportunities that you've presented for people in order to help us make our brains healthier. Some of those I'm definitely going to put in practice, though I might not do the brushing my teeth thing if I'm going out in public, just because for the sake of other people that I'm with. We do have a question from Evelyn, asks, how can we avoid head injuries?
Mm-hmm. And that's a really good question, because we know when head injuries happen and concussions happen, or all of these things, it contributes to not good brain health. And so really, I think for head injuries, my one of my biggest advice and sharings is really being mindful of, again, if you are out riding a bike or rollerblading, we're wearing our helmet. We're being mindful if we're using mobility aids that, if we have a cane or walker, that we're using them because they're meant to help us keep that stability. My biggest takeaways, is really that good balance. So I really, really stress the importance of, taking time to do some good balance exercises. And I'd be happy to forward to Jenna and she could share with you I have a sheet of 10 home exercises that are evidence-based from the Canadian Centre for Activity and Aging. And the whole idea is to really promote good balance, because we know when our balance is off, there's a huge potential for falls. And as I mentioned earlier, falls are the #1 reason why seniors are admitted into long-term care. And so a quick tip I'll share with you even is, when we stand at our sink, when we're doing our dishes, when we're brushing our teeth, don't stand with your feet 2 feet together. Have that wide base of support. Take your feet about hip width apart, because it's then that we have better balance. I'm swaying as you can see it, but it really does give us that base of stability. So we want a good stable base when we're standing. We also want to be mindful of if our physical abilities are changing, recognize that and maybe have a backup plan. So maybe if you're out at a, maybe if I saw this at the Walk for Alzheimer's Society on Sunday, we had many people that were able to walk most of the distance, and they did because it was good physical health, but they also knew their limitations. And so they had someone following them with a wheelchair so they could take a break when they needed. Being mindful of those scatter mats around our house, being mindful of what are potential fall risks. Are we lighting our areas when we're out for walks? Are we having, a safe space to interact in? And some of these things, seem like simple things, but it's things to be mindful of because falls often happen. And head injuries happen because of falls, right? It's then that it happens unpredictably. Like everyone said, oh, I didn't see that coming. It's because we never do. It's an accident, right? But if we be, often those accidents can be avoided, and those head injuries as a result can be avoided if we're mindful, like I say, good lighting, scatter mats, not laying around, and being our best physical self and having the physical abilities to help us when we need them. I hope that answered it okay.
I think that was a great answer with, again, really practical things that we can do to increase that. I was actually reading something recently that said the age at which we become more susceptible to falls is actually 25. And so if we start being more susceptible to falls at 25, then we have to build up our strength. We have to build our balance. And that's an ongoing learning opportunity. How do you balance so that you can avoid those head injuries, so you can avoid those falls, which is really excellent. Terrell, I have a couple of would you rather questions for you. Are you ready?
Ooh,
yes. Okay.
Yes.
Would you rather tacos or hamburgers?
Tacos for sure.
Okay. Now, soft shell or hard shell?
Soft.
Soft shell tacos. Love that. Would you rather go to the mountains or go to the ocean?
Oh, I'm going to say mountains only because I love the ocean, but I've never really been in the mountains. So it would be something new.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I've been to the
But
mountains.
I really want to go to the ocean too.
I think for a lot of people right now, it's the desire to get away. But even in thinking in terms of what a fun thing that you could do with your friends is just ask a couple of questions, because it, as you said, it exercises your brain and it helps you get to know the people around you in a way that maybe you didn't know. I would have no idea that you'd be a mountain girl over an ocean girl until I asked you. So I appreciate that answer. I so appreciate this. For our participants, just so you know, we'll be sending out an email with those resources that Terrell mentioned, with the balance activities, also with some things that are coming up. So we wanted to thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for adding in the questions and answers. And if you want to continue the conversation of how to get better with age, then email me at jwickens@cfssc.ca. We're looking into providing this further in the fall, a Better with Age that will look in a little bit of a different format. It would either be virtual or in person. So when you email me, you can let me know which one you prefer, virtual or in person, and we'd have a greater social component. So it would be, if virtual, in more of a meeting style so that we can see each other's faces and interact and build relationship, because as Terrell said, that social activity is so important for our brain health. So looking at that, and we'd also include an educational component so that we can learn together how to get better with age. For now, recently coming up, we have, these are some activities that we have coming that you might be interested in. This Saturday, we have an information session on men's sheds. Again, I'm going to email out all of this information so that if you're interested, that you can get in contact with us and join us for this. Men's Sheds is an organization that started in Australia as an opportunity for men to come together and have social activity together. That some men's sheds do woodworking, some do music, some do a lot of different things. So we have men who are running a men's shed in Ottawa currently are going to join us virtually, but we are actually going to do this in person at 20 Ann Street South in Barrie. And so if you come and join us, we'll be providing lunch and you'll be able to have lunch and learn about men's sheds. The morning is open to anyone. The afternoon is for men who'd be interested in joining a men's shed. Our next speaker series for Better with Age is next week. It's estate planning with Denisha Allen. She is a money manager, finance planner with Edward Jones, and she's going to be joining us. Again, this is a free webinar, but it may be helpful for you to learn more about estate planning as we think about brain health, and then we're going to be thinking about financial health. Denisha told me that in her line of work, she's seeing so many relationships pulled apart by finances that she really has a desire to see people prepared so that their families don't suffer after they're gone. And so we're going to be looking at estate planning. I will send you that link that if you're interested in joining us, that you can sign up, join us next week. It'll be the exact same time, the exact same space, same bat channel, as they say. In the following week, author Dr. Will Williman will be joining us to talk about his book, Aging. It's Growing Old, Aging in Church. It's actually called Aging, Growing Old in Church, but he will be talking with us about aging and spirituality. So our spiritual health, our brain health, our financial health, all of these different things. Dr. Williman is actually out of the States and he'll be joining us virtually as well. And then on June 30th, we're going to take a week off and come back together the last week of June. Emily Wolst from Lakehead University will be joining us to talk about third age learning. Terrell, I love that you mentioned that there's universities now that are providing free courses or a lower cost course to provide educational opportunities for older adults. And Emily is going to speak about that. And she's coming from Lakehead and is again, virtual, to talk to us about opportunities for educational growth for people. She's also going to be talking about how Lakehead is moving towards becoming an age-friendly university, which means that they want to be a university that any person of any age can feel safe and comfortable and find growth in their space. We want to see more age diversity in the classroom. We want to see people who want to learn, to grow, and all of those things have opportunities to do so. So that is coming up. And then in way down the line in September, we are going to be doing another webinar on ageism. So I know that that's a lot of information that I just threw at you after a ton of really great information from Terrell, that you'll need to process this to digest all of this brain health, which is good for your brain in that. And Terrell, you had mentioned board games, and I'm just wondering, do you have a board game that you recommend or board games that you really like to play?
I have a wonderful one that I like to recommend, and it's one that when I was doing the Minds in Motion program, I found out. It's called Quirkle. It's QWIRKLE. And this is a game that's very similar to dominoes. However, it's with shapes and colors. So it's very good for people of, all ages and skill sets. And it was one of my most requested activities. You can play it with, 2 people, you can play it with many people. And so I love to do that one. I love, Pictionary is a good one. I actually have one here, Jen. I don't know if we have time, but would you like me to show a little brain game?
Please do. We do have some time left over. And I do want to thank you, Terrell, again. Thank you for joining us. I just so appreciated that not only did you give us information to process, but also really, really practical things that each one of us can put into play, even as soon as we get off of this webinar, that you could go for a walk, or you could call a friend, or you could do all those different things. So yes, Terrell, tell us about this brain game that you have for us.
All right. Well, actually,
do you need to share?
I think I'm just going to give you an example, so I might just get you to stop. There we go. So one kind of something to leave you with. Sorry, it's covering up my page. There we go. Just kind of leave you with this. So this is some activity that, some people like these kind of games and some people find these kind of games frustrating. But I can tell you that by doing these types of game, it makes our brain think outside the box. And the more that we do these types of games, the more our brain kind of pre-wires itself to learn to think like this. So perhaps when I send Jenna the resources that we spoke of, I will send this along with the answers to not keep you guessing too much. But these are good activities. For an example, we might look at number 1, and the idea is to look at this puzzle and find the common message. So for this, sorry.
We can see your files right now, but we don't actually see the PowerPoint.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Not a problem.
Oh. Okay, well, what I will do, I'm going to send that out as a resource. I apologize for that. Okay. But many great board games. And I say, as long as it's one that you find is interesting, then it's the right board game.
That's great.
Right? One that speaks to you.
Yes, my family really loves to play a game called 5 Crowns. It's not my favorite, but it is my parents' favorite, and so we play it with them a lot. My dad likes it because he wins most of the time, but it's more of a game that has to do with luck, but it's putting together patterns with cards and with a lot of cards in your hand at once. So it's just different, interesting games. I love that, and I feel like there's a lot of different things games that are available. Sometimes it's just knowing what is available, what you can access.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, there's, on the computer, there's a lot of great opportunities to play a lot of games alone or joining with others in a safe format, so Scrabble's online and jigsaw puzzles online. So a lot of good opportunity that way as well.
That's really great. Well, Terrell, I just wanted to take the time to thank you once again. Thank you for spending this time with us, and thank all of you for coming to join us to learn how to be better with age. We hope to see you again soon. We hope to see you next week that you can join us. And we're hopeful that we'll have the chat functioning then, because we do want to hear your thoughts, your opinions, and have more of your interaction as well. So we hope to hear from you soon. You can expect to receive that email with those resources within the next couple of days. Have a great day and continue to grow old, knowing that growing is living. Have a great day.